mystical, so unpredictable, here on SNL Stats.
Yes, that is right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our SNL Season 46 finale live show, a recap right after the show. If you are joining us on YouTube, it is late. It is 10 past 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm so excited to break down this finale. It was full of energy. I think it was definitely, if not the best, one of the best episodes of the season, and I can't wait to hear what the panelists think about this show and all of the people in the chat. So if you are in the chat, write your comments as we go through these different sketches. We're going to break down everything as we go. But let me introduce the panel for anyone listening on audio afterwards. Andy Hoglund is here from SNLInReview and Entertainment Weekly. Andy Hoglund, how are you?
John, I'm doing well. You know, like you said, it is late, but this is the life we chose, you know? So here we go. And I just want to echo what you said. That was a very moving finale. So I'm so interested to hear what the rest of the roundtable had to say.
Yeah, really, there's just so much to talk about. I can't wait to get into it. So just let me introduce the guys, then we're going to talk it through. Bill Kenney is here. He is one of our amazing super fans. He joined us all the way back at the beginning of the season. We've heard his thoughts throughout. Bill Kenney, how are you?
I'm good, and maybe it's because it's 1:10 a.m., but I'm craving a Denny's Grand Slam.
Okay. Yeah. What kinds? Yeah. All right,
one that's found in an apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Joining us also, one of the amazing Andrews we've had on all season long, another one of our super fans. I'm so happy to banter with this guy back and forth on podcasts throughout the year. Andrew Haynes, how are you?
I am fired up, just like I'm sure everyone else is. Very excited to talk about this episode. Obviously, this has been an incredibly special and unique season, and I think this finale was kind of a microcosm of that. So really looking forward to moving through all the aspects of it.
Yeah, so for those of you who are checking us out for the first time, welcome. We are at SNL Stats. We're a team of journalists, super fans, other podcasters. We come here, we break down the show, and what we do on these live shows is we give our off-the-cuff takes on all of the sketches. If you want to get into more of the nitty-gritty, talk about the macro, episode and how this, fits into the entire season, join us on our roundtable on Monday. We have some excellent guests for that. But let's talk about the show right now. Andy Hoglund, I'm going to start with you. If you are writing, I know you write for Entertainment Weekly. If you're writing, the Monday morning newspaper, what is the headline that you are reading from this episode from the finale?
Well, just a moment ago, I was tweeting out my show recap that folks can get at EW.com. And I think I called it a moving, spry season finale. I mean, I was in my feelings, as I think a lot of the cast was. It was both spry, like I said, in the sense that it was fun and lively, but it was also very poignant at the same time. So it was a good balance overall.
Yeah, for sure. Bill Kenney, let me come to you. So if you're writing the headline, what is the headline for season 46 finale?
I think this tied the bow on a time capsule season. I from the beginning, I've thought we're going to remember this, maybe not for how good the season has been, but because of what we're living through between the presidential election and COVID and everything else. And this just felt like a huge sigh of emotion that was let out. And I think that's we got what we wanted for that.
Yeah, for sure. I really felt, Haynes, and tell me if you agree with this. I really felt, we talked a lot about on this podcast, 46A and 46B. It really felt like two different seasons, the post-Trump into the Biden era. And the episodes were really high in quality post-New Year. And I felt like we hit a little bit of a lull, but it really came back tonight. I really felt like the quality was there tonight. Do you agree?
I 100% agree. We really ended the season on an upswing. And if you were asking me the exact same question that you asked,
Go for it.
The first two guys, I think the headline would just be, it was kind of this ultimate catharsis. We made it. We survived. We didn't know how the season was going to go. And when we started this season, the world was in a very different place than we are now. We were still caught in the worst parts really of this whole thing that we've been going through. And there is kind of, a light on the horizon now, and we're really kind of getting over the hump in a lot of ways. And it felt like that's, something that the cast went through. We went through, the show went through, and it felt like, like Bill said, we kind of put a bow on it tonight. And to me, it was it was a really cathartic. We made it. We survived, and and here we are.
Exactly. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through the episode beat by beat. We're going to go through the sketches, talk about our thoughts. In the chat, I want you guys to let us know what your thoughts are. We're going to bring them up on screen. If you guys have questions for us throughout the night, let us know. We'll bring them up. We'll answer your questions as well. We'll probably go on for about an hour. So, Andy, let me start with you. We have this cold open. What I remember, we were told today, you and I were told from one of our colleagues that this was a last-minute cold open that they wrote in. And, they were sometimes the cold open is the thing that is written last. And I think they hit a home run with this one because, a lot of people say when they go back and they watch Saturday Night Live, they go and they think, oh, what was my favorite episode? And they go from season to season. But I think if you were going to watch Saturday Night Live season 46 from start to finish, there is no perfect way to summarize it than with this cold open. So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was cathartic. I particularly, what the nation and what the world has gone through over the last 15 months has been, so heavy. And watching the show week to week, as a lot of folks do, particularly in this chat and on this show right now, this was not a sprint. It was a marathon. So it accumulates every sketch, every different host, every show. It all builds to and culminates to something. So it was actually a very nice touch, even regardless of the COVID context, to kind of take stock of where we've all been over the last 9 months or so. So I thought that was really well executed and a nice way to kind of put a punctuation on the season at large.
For sure. Bill, one of the first things that I noticed when the show started, and I know that there was a turning point. I think it was with the Reggae Jean episode where we noticed we weren't getting these COVID healthcare worker audiences anymore, which was really nice and really wonderful. But you kind of felt like the energy was changing. And tonight, I could hear it in the crowd. I could hear the loud audience, and I felt like, ooh, we're back. We're back. What did you think of it?
Absolutely. And I mean, it started right from the very first second when we saw those four on stage, and somebody mentioned in the chat, my stomach dropped when I saw the four of them together, like, uh-oh. But then, I mean, going around the room and getting all the other sketch performers in, and the great cheers that all of them got, it really felt like we were back. It took 20 episodes, and you can tell from just the energy. They started from cold open all the way through. They kept it going because of that audience. I think that was a big part of it.
For sure. Hey, Haynes, comment on that a little bit. And then also, I mean, we saw so many highlights throughout the season. It was really just cool to see, even though there was some controversial moments throughout the season that I know that we spoke about on this podcast. We spoke about the Morgan Wallen stuff, the Elon Musk decision. All these things were beat by beat when I was going through our conversations with different panelists this season. But I felt like it was cool that SNL still addressed it and was like, hey, this stuff is going to live forever. It's always going to be part of season 46 of SNL. So just, let it be what it is.
Well, listen, we all are aware that SNL really acts as a time capsule, for whatever the country, the Western world is kind of experiencing at any given time. And also, it's a live show that tries to take certain risks. And, obviously Elon Musk was a risk. I don't think anyone realized that Morgan Wallen would be as much of a risk as he was. But certainly, going through that, what I remember about this year, I mean, they touched on the things that, stood out to me, the most. I mean, when I think of the year, I think of it starting with, Jim Carrey's Biden, and then moving through the whole, Morgan Wallen saga, and then, ending kind of toward the end, with Miley's Mother's Day, thing. It's been an incredible year. To speak to the audience and the cold open in particular, you could immediately tell that the audience was stacked, and it was great to see some of those shots from Don Roy King's. They pulled back some of the cameras and let us see some of that. That was fantastic. I really thought they stood out maybe most during Weekend Update. This Weekend Update felt so much more elevated than it had in so long, and I think part of that's because of the full cast. But obviously the cold open was incredibly emotional. There was some funny stuff going on. I think we probably all saw the people walking in the background with the flashlights, crossing, in between sets, and the new cast members, when they went to Dismukes and Punky and Lauren, they were mic'd weird. They sounded different than everyone else. I don't know if anyone else noticed that as well. But when 80 started to say, obviously people we've lost, I think we all, at least a lot of us probably immediately went to Hal. I felt the hair stand up on my arm, and, I wasn't weeping, but the tear ducts were activated. That's for sure. It was a serious, powerful moment to think about, really what we've all been through. And it's not just like minor inconveniences like wearing a mask. It's been real stuff that's really affected people's lives. So that was a hell of a cold open, really took us on a ride. And it was incredibly powerful and certainly won't soon be forgotten. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think, guys, I think that what I notice throughout the history of SNL, these cold opens or these sketches, whether they're end of season stuff or not, that people remember the most are the ones that not only make you feel, but also make you laugh. And that is what we had tonight. We had a very funny cold open. I know that I saw Monette, like one of our regular listeners and someone we interact with on Twitter in the chat, point out the moment where they talked about the guy reading the textbook during the show. I don't know how SNL saved that for the finale, but that was just such a great thing to bring up. That was so great. Like, there was just such funny moments, but then it also made you feel. And we're going to talk about, like you said, that Miley cold open for a really long time because it was so emotional, but this had the funny too, and that's why this was so great. It had the Akira Yoshimura cameo in it, which for a long time SNL fans who are maybe people who don't even know, I mean, this is a guy who's been with the show since the very first episode of the show, so cool that he was in there. So there's just a lot of moments here. And then let me turn to the monologue for a second, guys, which is, we have this point where, people weren't really sure if, why Anya Taylor-Joy was booked for the season finale. And I don't know. Look, I still think that she did a serviceable job. We'll get into it. But there was a moment in the monologue, which I felt like was a continuation of the cold open, which was when she turned to the audience and you see the camera pan to the upper deck and you see everybody there. And to me, that was the moment of the start of the show when you see that. So before we get into the sketches, which we'll do in just a moment, anyone else have a comment on the cold open and or monologue? Andy, anything from you?
I mean, just to kind of put a bow on all this, I guess maybe is, what I loved about how lovely that moment was in the monologue and the cold open was the acknowledgement that the show doesn't just operate on the humor or the writers or the performers. This is a show that it's a give and take. Like we contribute to it in a way. Like it's a live. It's Saturday Night Live. So having a live audience there for the first time this season, fully vaccinated. You can't underestimate that. And I think that played a huge role. And it was nice for the show, frankly, to, play into that a little bit. It was very human and made it lovely.
Yeah, I think, I'm just going to ask anyone in the chat, please let us know what you thought of Anya Taylor-Joy tonight. We would love to hear your comments on her performance as a host, to end the show. Like I said, I thought she was a very good host. Maybe nothing like spectacular, but I thought she was very solid and could have really hosted any episode this season. Let's get into the sketches, guys, if that's okay with you. I want to talk about this Hollywood Squares because, the first thing that I thought of, and I know there's people in the chat, I know some of you guys were thinking the same thing. So they get into the Steve Higgins where they're talking about the stuff from 1953 and whatever, and they go to 1998 Hollywood Squares. And I think to myself, actually, during SNL in 1998, the first episode of season 24, host Cameron Diaz, there is a new Hollywood Squares sketch where all the cast, the Hollywood Squares basically break. And I remember Jimmy playing Gilbert Gottfried. And it was just so funny when you see that connection, you see that this was like based in reality. But then where this went, I absolutely loved. Bill, I'll start with you. What do you think about Hollywood Squares?
As soon as they panned to the squares, and the first name I saw was Bill Cosby, and I was like, yep, that's where we're going. Okay. And then I saw Kevin Spacey out of the corner of my eye, and I said, okay, yeah, we're going to kill 1998 right now, aren't we? Like, and it's kind of embarrassing that all of these people from 1998 are so far out of public knowledge now because of what they did and allegedly did. I wasn't expecting Jeff Dunham. That was the crazy part. The cornbread. And then Chris Red call him out. No, man, that wasn't funny.
Hold on. Can I ask a question? Was cornbread a real character? Because I know the jalapeno was. Was cornbread a real character?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Did you run him around in 1998? That was my question.
Okay, so no, it wasn't that, but I was going to tell you that I did fact check this Jared Fogle stuff because I was like, wait, there's no way that the Subway guy was around in 1998, and he really started doing those commercials in 2000. So I think they manipulated the time,
a little bit, yes.
the space-time continuum a little bit for this one. But this was really great, and you know, Haynes, I used to think to myself, and like maybe this is wrong, so I apologize if it's not like the correct way of thinking, but like when all the Bill Cosby stuff went down and the Lauer and the Spacey things, like you start thinking in terms of SNL, just purely like, hey, they're probably never going to like mention this stuff again on SNL. Like, you know, Bill Cosby has like a long history with Eddie Murphy being played on there and Kenan Thompson. And you start thinking about this stuff, but like if they were going to ever do it, this was the way to do it, I think.
I mean, this was a great way to do it. It's not like they haven't kind of touched on these things a little bit before. I think, you know, the Christmas episode with Eddie Murphy from the Christmas before last, you know, he came out and did Bill Cosby, you know, in that monologue. It was hilarious. And I loved how edgy and racy that was. So yeah, this was, I mean, you know, the game show Squares, you know, sketch is one that we've, you know, seen plenty of times in the past. This was a very fun way to rip on all those former, you know, people who may have been associated with the show in one way or another, you know, to kind of rip on them all at the same time. I think it was a great vehicle for it. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I just see this comment from our friend Pete in the chat who says, I saw Apu from The Simpsons in the top right square. And this is the thing, like when you do the live show, you can't like get everything down. Like we'll talk about the stuff on the roundtable, but like these little nuggets of stuff, like I just felt there was like so much gold here. Andy, what did you think of this particular sketch?
I thought it was really funny. I mean, I kind of thought that after a while, it you know, we've talked in some of the other shows about, you know, how I always want the arc, you know, I always want the stakes to escalate a little bit, and this it kind of devolved a little bit into, you know, just like the patter of jokes, you know, nailing Matt Lauer, nailing Kevin Spacey, which is fine, but I was kind of waiting for it to you know, become more, I don't even know, like cinematic or something. Like that's not the right word for it, but it's, you know, almost 2 a.m. So, but I thought it was good. I thought it was really funny. You know, I love seeing Kenan, you know, bring back his Cosby, you know, for those of us who remember him on All That and you know, may or may not have seen Fat Albert in theaters, not confirming anything. So I thought that was a very entertaining premise, and you know, they executed it pretty well.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say, guys, is like I love that they started the show with this, because this is the type of thing we talk a lot of time about, you know, sketch placement. And I know that's not a cast decision. Usually there's a lot of moving parts. It's not necessarily like what's the funniest. It has to do with, you know, what fits in the right spot a lot of the times. But the fact that they put this particular sketch right after the high energy monologue that we got, this to me was a perfect placement for this sketch. And then we go into this pre-tape, which picture with Dad. And guys, I mean, the only thing that I have written down is like, that was fucking hilarious. So I'm just going to say that was really funny. Bill, what do you think of this?
I didn't see that coming, and no pun intended. But I mean, I think this was the one consistent thing of this season was I don't think there was an episode that didn't have at least one great pre-tape. I really don't. I mean, I'd have to go back and look for sure, but this was fantastic. You know, you just think he's coming out with the gun, and I'm going in my head, oh, I have an 11-year-old daughter. Yeah, that could be me in a couple years. And then he turns the gun. And it just goes down, spiraling from there. And the whole part with them in the hospital and Heidi telling him, no, we're definitely going to. But yeah, no, but we're definitely going to.
Haynes, you know what I loved about this one? It was that it felt like there was 2 really good ideas for a pre-tape, and sometimes that's a really big issue for SNL, is where they try and combine these 2 things. But to me, it actually fit really well together. The whole dad shooting himself in the nuts with the gun, and then also the kids being like, yeah, we're still gonna do it. And it's just it fit together like a puzzle so perfectly. What'd you think of this one?
I think you really hit the nail on the head. It is 2 kind of great joke lines that you can both extend a little bit, and they wove them together nicely. You know, something that really struck me about this, and I loved this, you know, pre-tape. I thought it was hilarious, but something that I noticed was I feel like this was the most it was kind of the most confident character we've seen Andrew Dismukes play. I don't think we've seen him play such a like bold, kind of confident. That kid almost had a James Bond level of like coolness to him toward the end when he's being just like so confident and telling this man that he's definitely banging his daughter. And he seems so natural in it. He seemed very natural in it. And so just as far as the Andrew Dismukes acting chops that we've had a chance to see this season, this kind of, I think, took things to another level for me. It showed, like this was a gear that we hadn't seen from Andrew Dismukes before, and it came very naturally to him. So props to Dismukes, I think.
He's got layers. He's got layers.
Yeah, Andy, jump off on that because I want to hear your thoughts on Dismukes and this whole pre-tape.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a fan of Dismukes' work all season. I think that not only was he the most impressive new cast member, but he might rank up there in terms of overall cast member performance, regardless of category this year. I really liked him, and I thought that this the pre-tape was a good example of what else he can do, because we've seen him kind of be the nebbish or the insecure, or the weirdo. And here was him just playing that sort of sociopath high school kid that every dad worries is dating their daughter, kind of. And to your earlier point, John, I 100% want to co-sign that and agree. Where it's they set up the premise and you have the payoff with the gun, but then it takes a left turn and it goes into this very specific nightmare scenario of what would happen, if you blew off your cock, but also what would happen if you were faced with the fact that your daughter was banging some kid in high school and they were just open and flagrant about it. I think, as a new parent, that is something that, crosses my mind as a reality a little bit. And as someone who dated girls in high school, I also remember this is kind of a weird relationship when you're talking to the dad of, someone that you're trying to have sex with. So it was, in a weird way, it was true to life and very relatable, if that makes sense.
So, as a new parent, you're worried about shooting your cock off with a gun?
That's what crossed my mind, man. This is what SNL does to me, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of cocks, the dangler and wrinkle pouch we got in this making a man sketch that we got next. This actually still worked for me. I don't know, guys. Maybe I was on such a high from earlier, but I felt look, we had an excellent start to the episode. I didn't expect everything to hit, but to me, this was still there was some good stuff here. Bill, what'd you think of this one?
Oh, I think on a rewatch, it's not going to be as good. But I agree with you. Yeah, coming off of the high of the first 25 minutes, there's some funny jokes in there. I think this is Melissa's highlight of the night. Her little jokes there with standing next to 80 as Zelda. But the illusion of a giant face to scare off predators, I think that was my favorite joke in the whole thing, why men have nipples.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's okay. It wasn't great for me, but I think it was okay for what it was.
Yeah, Haynes, I do wonder if and this does happen. I mean, it doesn't happen on a rewatch, but it certainly happens when you're watching it live, that the previous sketches being so high quality sometimes makes you a little bit easier on what's coming up. So what'd you think about this one?
So, I mean, I this did get, some laughs out of me. It got plenty of laughs out of me. Honestly, I thought this episode was very consistent in that, it was kind of ranging from that B+, A- range on sketches down to C+. For me, I didn't see anything that was really horrible, and there wasn't anything that I consider all-time top tier sketches. But so this was on the lower end, but I didn't think that there was a huge amount of range. So it wasn't that bad. I thought it was a great premise, but the jokes didn't blow me away. It's not a particularly original premise. So, I don't know if I've made these exact same jokes before, but I mean, probably since I was 14, I've sat around, the lunch table in the cafeteria and made this same joke that God made men these hideous, disgusting creatures, and made women so functional, and effective, at being humans, and men are kind of a waste of space. We've all made that joke. We made that joke for a very long time. Yeah, I'm sure. So, they didn't blow me away. I did like the kind of recurring bit. I think it only happened twice, but Chris Redd stepping in and saying that was my idea. For a couple of funny things like the and what happens when these sperm aren't released and they just keep build up. Oh, he goes crazy. Yeah, that was my idea too. There were some good jokes. It was okay, but I didn't see a huge range in this episode. Again, I didn't think anything was top gold, and I didn't think anything was crap. But in this range, this very consistent, pretty good, but middle range for this episode, I thought it was slightly on the lower end. Yeah.
Yeah, Andy. So what I'm seeing in the chat was my exact thoughts, which I was holding as we kind of get through the panel and talking about this, which was that this had like a lot of interesting bits, no pun intended. But the one part that was absolutely baffling to me was the ending. I don't get this whole Jesus Kyle thing, and I really felt like why are they throwing this in here?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier with the previous two sketches, the pre-tape being more successful. Hollywood Squares, I think you guys liked a little bit more than me, but that's an example of I felt like they had more to mine here, and if they wanted to include Kyle, that's not just like a dot at the end of the sentence. Like that should have been like the second part of the sketch, and there should have been like a new dynamic there, like in a different era. I could see that sketch going on for a couple more minutes, and maybe I don't know, like maybe Jesus is a bureaucrat who's talking on God's behalf and giving them like notes or something like that. Like there's something there, and I'm not quite sure this did it, but I still liked it overall. It's not the most original idea, but I thought that it was pretty funny, and I thought everyone did well in it as well too. But I was a little curious if they had to cut a couple pages with Kyle, if that's something like that happened.
And why is Kyle playing Jesus like a dude from New Jersey? Like, I know he only has a couple of scenes, but it's like, hey, where's my homies? Like,
yeah,
on, dude.
to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Andy, I didn't understand why you would introduce a new character, and you can only introduce a new character, like at the end of, in really two ways. Either you have to develop it and take it in a new direction, or they can step in and just have one killer line that punches and wraps the whole thing up. And It was neither of those. So it was very strange. Very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I see what you guys are saying. Okay, so then we moved on and we had this Pride Month song, which I'm just going to, put it out there. I don't know that four straight men need to talk too much about the Pride Month song, but I do think that this was very well done. Does anyone have anything that they want to say about this? I'll just throw it out to the panel.
I think we'll come up in this later with the AMC thing. I think the biggest takeaway is that it's kind of, we're all so excited to get back out in the world and do these things and do the things we did before COVID. And oh shit, it's not that great. So that was my takeaway from both this and the Vin Diesel piece. Like, let me get out there. Oh no, I'm happier inside.
Right. So. Human relationships are messy, and even if we're happy to be back in the world, there's still conflict that's out there. I mean, I really liked. I thought the whole like holiday Madonna spoof that the song was going after was pretty good. I really liked the dialogue that Bowen, I think it was Bowen and Kate McKinnon had about theory and eating Chick-fil-A and whether an individual has a responsibility based on what a corporate organization's values were. I thought that was pretty fun. There was a couple small moments like that, beyond just like the overall joyousness of the song that I thought were pretty good.
For sure. Haynes, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was pretty fun. Like kind of some of the other sketches tonight, it didn't blow me out of the water, but it wasn't horrible either. One thing, I did like the little exchanges Bohm was having. It gave me I did get one of my hardest laughs out of the whole show, maybe just because the line was so unexpected. But when Bowen was like, "You Deutsche Bank, bitch!" That got a very hard laugh out of me. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. I did not see that turn coming, and so I really enjoyed that. But yeah, like we were talking about, like Bill was saying with the Vin Diesel sketch. Yeah, this is a very real phenomenon. The rose-colored glasses, when we're looking back in memory, I think there was actually, during the pandemic, like at some point, I guess because a lot of people were feeling like they were feeling isolated. They wanted to get back with their exes and stuff. Like psychologists actually had to come out. They were like putting it out in the news. Hey, there's a reason you broke up with those people. Don't go back to them. Like, you're forgetting the bad parts, So this is a real phenomenon that people experience. If it's been a long time since we've been able to do something, maybe we forget about kind of the crappy parts of it. Just touching on some very honest, real emotional phenomena that we all experience. But yeah, pretty good. And I did, for some reason, find that Deutsche Bank line just really funny.
Yeah, and also, like, this is the most amazing reason why we get to do this show and get to communicate with the fans and everybody who's in the chat is like, maybe that this isn't my particular experience, but this is somebody's, and there's a lot of comedy to mine here. And the fact that you guys in the chat are saying, hey, this is like super accurate about the experiences that a lot of people are having as things are returning to normal. I love to hear that. So like, that's really great. There was certainly things that I found funny from this as well. And I see just like people complimenting Bowen's work this season, and like I said, we're going to talk about all the this season things and who's rising and stuff like that. But I have to say, like, so awesome of Bowen to be able to produce something like this. I'm sure he was involved in it, and then also getting Lil Nas X in it for everybody who loves Lil Nas X. You want to talk about blowing up something on the internet? SNL knows how to do that. So really cool cameo to get him in there. So that was exciting. And then we moved on, and then we have Boston Celtic women or Celtic women, not to confuse Chris Red, but this was really interesting to me. I kept getting flashes of Top of the Morning with Patrick Fitzwilliam and William Fitzpatrick for a long time Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon watchers. This was interesting. Andy Hoglund, what do you think of it?
This was not my favorite of the night. Having worked in Boston politics and gone to enough Irish step dancing breakfasts to last a lifetime. It was certainly accurate. But that's the kind of sketch that I find a little indulgent, and it's well done, and it doesn't offend me or anything like that. But that's always the kind of one where I watch and I'm like, yeah, that was good, but what else did you cut? You know what I mean? So I don't have anything too substantial beyond that. It wasn't really my cup of tea.
Yeah, for sure. I have Evelyn in the chat saying, someone please explain the Celtic sketch. So Bill, do you want to give it a shot?
I don't think I can do that, Evelyn. Sorry. I don't know who this was made for. I mean, is this made for?
Wait. Sorry, Bill. I think at the end of the sketch they said this was the Lion King for Karens.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
My only funny line in this was the songs audience wants to hear, and they start singing "Sweet Home Alabama." But other than that, like Cecily almost breaking 6 or 7 times was the only thing that was even close to making me laugh. So it just wasn't my thing either, like Andy said.
Yeah. So we can Haynes, let me get your thoughts and then we'll move on from it.
Well, I'm kind of on board with everybody else. It wasn't a sketch that I think will be particularly memorable. I do know who it was for. It was for people like me who have parents that are like into this stuff and have experienced this before. I've been taken to these, Irish dance shows, and I dated a girl who was an Irish dancer, and my mom.
Oh, wait. Please explain. Go ahead.
No.
All the time you need.
My mom definitely bought those like Celtic. I just remember these CDs with like pictures of Ireland on them and stuff, and I actually have one of those Irish drums upstairs. So with my family crest on it. So I think the sketch is for poor people like me who've had to suffer through this exposure. But it wasn't particularly amazing. I did think there was something that really struck me was, my God, the accents were incredibly brutal. They were horrible accents, except for Anya. Hers was actually pretty spot on. She kind of nailed her Irish accent. Everyone else's was god awful. But to me, it's a C+ sketch, maybe. So it was all right. Let's move on.
Yeah, Haskell's in the chat says my mom wants to do an Irish dance at my wedding, so you'll have to send us that video, Haskell. Okay, so we had Lil Nas X, who was awesome. We don't do that much music coverage over here, but I just want to say he was just continuing the party of the evening, so I loved what he was doing. And then we got to Update. Now, Update was really interesting. There's a lot of things to talk about, so we're going to take it beat by beat. So let's start with Pete Davidson on Update. So we get our resident young person coming back for the season finale, and obviously everyone's thinking, is this the last time we're going to hear from Pete? I don't know, but Andy, what'd you think about this version of Pete's rant on Update?
I always like Pete Davidson's little bits on Update. I love Update as a showcase for stand up, and that's essentially what Pete's doing. He's doing some of his material and some of his bits up there. But to your point about whether this is Pete's last Update, they seem to be doing a delicate dance, and we can talk a little bit with Cecily as well too. It's a little bit of a delicate dance where they're kind of leaving the door open, so if they don't come back, they have this kind of nice final moment for themselves, but it's vague enough that it could just be referring to the end of the season. I thought that it was really funny. I thought that the AIDS SNL in the 90s line was so savage that got a big chuckle out of me, as did the Florida vaccine Jimmy Buffett line. So overall, I love when Pete comes on Update, and this didn't disappoint.
Yeah, I think the line was, it's like SNL, we're still here, except no one's gotten excited about it since the 90s. And I think that was like a killer line. So that was really awesome. Bill, but there was another line that I noticed, and I think we'll talk Pete, then we'll talk Cecily, and then we'll do the joke swap, because I think those things kind of go together. But the Pete stuff, he says at the end, it was an honor to grow up in front of you guys. And I don't know if that was a this year thing, because certainly on the podcast, we have covered how great of a season we think Pete has been having. So do you think that was more of a this year thing, or is it a overall his time on the show thing?
I didn't even think of that, because I watched so much SNL that the first thing I noticed when he came out was Joe kind of put his arm on him just a second longer than he normally would. Like, it's okay, you're going to get through this. So it almost felt like the last time for him. I could be reading into that. I could be completely wrong, but that was, and then when he ended with that line that said, an honor to grow up, I didn't even think about the fact that, like you said, he's grown up so much this year, but the fact that he started off as a 19-year-old kid on this show and was on Update almost immediately and doing this exact same thing. That was the way I took it, that he would be one of my guesses as a definite gone, but that's just a guess.
Out of any of them, he's the one with the possible movie star career on the horizon. So traditionally, he would be the one leaving, but
right.
For sure. And I see Claudie, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, in the chat says we're losing our minds trying to figure out who's leaving. And yeah, for sure. Like, that's as fans, that's what we do. I do think, like, to Andy's point, they kind of left the door open a little bit where this could be the last thing, but it also couldn't be. So Haynes, let's start with your thoughts on the Pete stuff.
Listen, Pete's. I enjoy Pete on Weekend Update. I always do. I like that he. I don't know how many of these lines he writes himself or are written for him, but the lines that he gets seem to be ones that push boundaries a little bit. He's definitely comfortable in that role, and they're obviously comfortable having him in that role. Even though maybe the pushiest line came from Lauren, but Lauren writes some great stuff. I think they took a moment to actually point out that he wrote the Headless Horseman sketch, where Beck is holding his head, and they just basically spend the whole time asking if he uses that thing to suck his dick. And then at the end, I think they made a point to say, oh, Lauren wrote this, by the way. So Lauren gets some. I would love to know more of the stuff that Lauren gets on there, but Pete is great for delivering that kind of material. I enjoyed it. There was nothing wrong with it at all. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
Okay. So we had the Pete stuff, and that was interesting. And then I know earlier tonight we tweeted out that Cecily was going to be on Update as well. We didn't know what we were going to get from her, but we knew that she was going to be there. And this to me was fascinating because it was right at the end. They saved it for after the joke swap. You would think that the joke swap would be the thing they would want to end on, but instead we have Cecily there that they're going to end on. So Andy, before I give my thoughts, tell me what you thought about the Cecily piece.
If Cecily does leave, what a way to go out. The show does a a really nice job of letting cast members do their own side projects now. So obviously she has her Apple show. So it seems professionally that, you know, everyone can stay if they want to, and maybe they will, but I don't know. Like, she seemed so much more engaged on this update performance, and maybe I'm in the minority, but it seemed like she was, you know, either checked out mentally or literally for much of the first few episodes this season. That it sure felt like a swan song to me. I mean, she's swimming in a giant bucket of you know, white girl wine and everything. It was hilarious, and it had the scope and feel of tipping of the cap. You know, whether that pans out, I guess, you know, we just gotta be on pins and needles the next couple of weeks and months, boys and girls.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bill, look, we don't know if Cecily's leaving, but you know, if this was the last, you know, big thing that we saw of her on the show, what did you think of it?
I think it was a good way for her to go out. I think it's pretty obvious. Again, I could be wrong, but it felt like the two things I thought of, especially doing it after the joke swap, whereas Catan doing all his characters on Update on his final show, and then of course Bill Hader doing Stefan. It felt very final. If this is it for her, I mean, she's going up on the Mount Rushmore of especially female performers on SNL, possibly of all time. For sure. We've come a long way since Gay Hitler. Yes, we have.
Yeah, exactly. Haynes, what did you think about the Cecily piece?
Well, you've heard me say many times that she's arguably my favorite cast member. She puts so much into her characters, and you know, I kind of had a thought very similar to, you know, what Andy was saying. That honestly, it felt like they were telling us that this was her last bit, because it certainly seems like it should be. I don't want her to leave, but gosh, it really came across that way. And I did think to myself, you know, what an incredible ending. It wasn't, she put so much into all of her characters. Always, of course, you know, she plays very eccentric women. Janine Pirro, she always goes way over the top with this character, as she does with a lot of her characters. But this one wasn't just crazy and chaotic. The ending was glorious. It was glorious and uplifting, and it felt like her swan song in a beautiful, powerful way. I mean, she took the final dunk under the wine, or, you know, her prop wine, and
you're hyping me up.
And yeah, and came up just soaked. And when she threw those arms back, it was, you know, Evita and you know, for Argentina. It was beautiful and powerful, and I absolutely loved it. And I think if that's the last time, this is what I thought in the moment. If that's the last time we see Cecily, boy, did they nail it. I mean, did they freaking nail it?
Yeah, and I think, guys, what was representative of Cecily for me seeing this is that Cecily, if you know her or you see her in like, not when she's acting, but in real life, she is just like calm and cool and collected. But when she plays certain characters, she is out there and outrageous. And someone in the chat, I think it was Ken, who's been with us for a lot of our live shows, or said it, like, very similar to Phil Hartman. And I kind of got that same thing from Phil back in the day, which was this guy who was just like super reserved. But then when he's out there on the show, he can play a character and absolutely crush it. So I guess what I'm saying is this may not be Cecily's last thing on the show, but if for some reason, whether, you know, some sunny day in August, she decides, hey, like, it's time to hang him up, I think this was a wonderful way to go. So whether it's the end of the season or end of her time on the show. So that was really cool. We're definitely going to be talking more about that in our roundtable. Let's talk about the joke swap, because I look forward to this every single season. This is a, you know, when Che and Jost leave the show, like, this is the thing we're always going to remember them for, because they like are literally willing to do anything with this stuff. So Andy, what'd you think of this?
Yeah, I wrote my Entertainment Weekly piece today that, you know, I think this always lands. And I think to your point, John, it really sums up this savage tone of Update right now, this era of Update. So I love this bit. I mean, I was thinking to your earlier point about why they swapped this with Cecily's piece. I feel like we've seen that before. Maybe the folks in chat can weigh in on that. But I feel like maybe during the Christmas episode, I feel like I've seen that before where they didn't end on this particular segment of update. So I'm just wondering if I'm making it up or if we've seen that decision happen in the past. But overall, this is a bit that nails both personas as anchors. And it's playful, but also has that bite that I think some of us really want out of updating the show.
Yeah. If you're in the chat, definitely let us know if Joke Swap hasn't been last before, because I thought that was an interesting decision. Bill, you know what the Joke Swap reminded me of when it came to all the Black Superman stuff? It reminded me a lot of and I think you'll like this remark, of the Seth Meyers era of Update, when he would tell a joke that was really great, and then he would turn and tell another joke, and then he would be like, wait 1 second, and go back to the first joke. And I love that stuff when he used to do that. So I thought this was really awesome. What did you think about the Joke Swap?
Oh, that was great. And we were cheated out of it in a way last year because of the at-home episodes. They did them, but with no audience. It wasn't quite as good. And, it was a much more serious time. I think they nailed it. The Black Superman jokes were fantastic. I do want to mention one other joke from this that I had an issue with. The Andrew Giuliani joke. How do you not bring out the Farley crawling up Kevin Nealon's leg? How do you not bring up a clip of that? You're talking about this guy on Saturday Night Live, and the first thing we ever heard of Andrew Giuliani was Chris Farley with the buck teeth crawling up Kevin Nealon saying live from New York.
Oh, that's such a good point, Bill. Oh, that's so great. I wish I thought of that.
Haynes, we need to write letters about that, I think, Bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Outrageous.
And I just want to say, Haynes, before I get to you, Dave Buckman's in the chat. Dave's going to be joining us on a roundtable in a couple days, but he did make the point in the chat, so I want to point out. He said he can't do the joke swap with a desk covered in prop wine. That is a great point, Dave. So thank you. Great point, Dave.
Yes.
Yeah,
great point,
exactly. Haynes, so what did you think about the joke swap?
Well, Joke Swap is one of my favorite things of all time in SNL history. I think it was a beautiful thing to be created. And, we heard Che tell the story. I think it was, I don't remember if it was on Fallon or Seth Meyers, a week or two ago, where he mentioned that, it was Joe's idea. And when it first happened, he didn't know if, he thought Joe was just trying to punk him. So he went really way over the top, like really trying to serve it to Jost. And it's been an incredible thing. Weekend Update has always been, I think it's easiest for me to rely on that in the show because it's so consistent. And I'm such a big stand-up fan. I really like the quick one-liners, so if, sometimes if the premise of a sketch is kind of weird or the concept is weird, the jokes aren't always so special the whole time. I feel like Weekend Update is kind of my, something I can always count on. So I love Weekend Update always. It's very often my favorite part of the show. This episode, it 100% was. I really thought, with the combination of, I thought Pete was very good. The joke swap was as amazing as always. And then, Janine Pirro, I thought was, it ended, it was truly glorious. That is the word that comes to me. So, Weekend Update was amazing. But the joke swap was as good as it's ever been. All of the Superman jokes were super messed up. And that's what makes them so funny, pushing those boundaries. It was, man, Che was really struggling getting through. It was a long setup. It was a long way to get to that Blue Lives Matter even more, but it was worth it. It was so worth it. It was so worth it. I love the joke swap as much as ever. It was a great one.
Mm-hmm. You know what the thing about why I like Joke Swap is because you always walk away from it thinking that this is the furthest they can go with it, and then they prove you wrong every single time they do it, and that's why I love the Joke Swap, and it's just so great. And then we also, so Weekend Update finishes. We have a tribute card for Charles Grodin, who was host in 1977. I believe he hosted the 50th episode of Saturday Night Live ever. It was a really good episode if you're into 70s SNL, so definitely go back and check that out.
I just want to say that I
Go
just watched it and it absolutely holds up. I'm sure everyone in this chat has seen it or is aware of it, so we're not revealing anything new. But I did want to ask, where's the Paul Mooney cutout at the end? No love for Mooney? What's up?
Yes. Wrote one of the most famous sketches of all time on SNL.
Yes, I think he equally deserved representation, especially if you have Chris Rock there. Like, I don't know.
Yes, absolutely.
Honestly, I don't know if this is controversial, but honestly, I would say he deserved it more than Grodin. I mean,
that's fair.
Listen, I love the Grodin episode, but Paul Mooney is he is a genius. I mean, Sanford and Son and SNL and so many, the Richard Pryor show and so many things in between.
Yeah,
obviously, Chappelle's show when I was like 18 was kind of the first time I was being exposed to Paul Mooney in that way, and just an absolute genius and influenced the comic world so much. That's a great point, and honestly, now I'm like kind of offended and upset that they didn't do.
I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm gonna go pick it.
You guys are totally entitled to your points, and it is a really good point. I just don't want to debate like who deserved more, but I would agree that they definitely should have made mention of it. That was definitely a missed opportunity on their part, and I'm glad we can do it on the show. So that's really important. So then we move on from update. We get to lingerie store, and to me this was like I don't know if you guys this is a really obscure thing for people to think of, but if you're a longtime SNL fan, you would. I was waiting for Tina Chanuse, the Jenny Slate character, to come out from Doorbells and More or Carmen.
Wow.
That's what this sketch reminded me of. I don't know if anybody in the chat saw the same thing. Bill, I'll start with you. What'd you think of Lingerie Store?
Great call, John. Does 80 now have to do women undergarment with every British host? I'm not sure. We did legs, and now she's doing brar barn. Say that 10 times fast. Oh, it was great. It was less obvious whether 80's leaving or not, but I think if this is how she goes out, this is one of her kind of signature pieces. It may not be a character that she's playing, but the way she plays in these sketches. A lot of great lines in this. I love how it ends with the, are these apartments? No, ignore that. Just credit cards? No, personal checks and coins.
Yeah. Haynes, what the thing for me was I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, we started off really strong. Update was really good. The quality in the show was dipping a little bit. And then I kind of felt like, okay, we are back. We're back with this one. What'd you think of this?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I thought 80 delivered her lines much better than Anya did. I don't know why there was that discrepancy there, but it seemed like 80 was just nailing all of her lines, and Anya, they weren't getting the laughs out of me. I don't know why. And she was pretty good overall throughout the rest of the episode. But for some reason, I just saw like a clear difference in this sketch. There was a lot of great quick lines. It's not a bra, it's scaffolding, or whatever they said. And I loved talking about the different styles of breasts. For some reason, Chicago style got a real laugh out of me. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. But yeah, this was pretty funny. It's not the greatest sketch I've ever seen, but this is an A- sketch to me. It makes it into the A's. I think it was pretty funny. Yeah.
For sure. Andy Hoglund, what do you think of this?
So this felt like a Kate McKinnon 80s sketch, but maybe not as tedious as some of those tend to be. I liked it. It was fine. It didn't make me mad like Paul Mooney, but I'm not a huge fan of the show spoofing these very specific regional quirky small business commercials. They've done it a couple times, and I certainly get it. Like Adam Sandler, I remember they did one. There's been a few over the last couple seasons. They just kind of like the Irish step dancing. Like I get it. It just doesn't make me laugh, especially. But and I'm always kind of wondering like what else was there? What else did we have? Though I did want to mention, I have my poll on Twitter right now, and at least one person commented, for what it's worth, that they thought Victor thought that 80 and Anya made a swell comedy duo, which we can talk about later. But I was surprised to see them back to back coupled together like that. I don't disagree. I thought they had decent chemistry.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Okay, so that was there, and then we went into the college panel, and I didn't know where this was going, but I did like the escalation. I felt like the questions were getting a little bit more ridiculous, and like I said, those are the sketches that I really enjoy personally. My subjective brand of comedy is I like escalation in sketches. So, Bill, what'd you think of the college panel?
This one didn't hit for me.
Okay.
I didn't really get where they were going with it. Obviously, they were obsessed with Pete's character. Didn't think much of the other four, especially the two, Bowen and Punky. But no, it just didn't work for me, and it went on way too long, as SNL late sketches tend to do. So it didn't really do it for me.
Okay. Haynes, I felt like they were trying to send a message here that this is potentially something that the cast members have experienced before. So did you get that vibe too, or no?
I don't know, for sure. But I didn't think it went on quite as long as the movie's Vin Diesel sketch. That one felt like it was going on a little bit too long. I didn't know. I also didn't know exactly where this was going at first. That didn't worry me. I'm always ready to just take the journey wherever they're ready to take me. I did like that. I think they said when they were reading the cards, did they say that a question came from Sudi G? So was there a little Sudi Green reference in there? I think so.
I think Casey
there we go. Yep.
Yeah.
There, Casey says it right there. Yeah. So I liked that. I did laugh really hard at one line, which also, I don't know if you saw, Punky was probably supposed to be completely off camera, but maybe the frame was just a little bit low. But she definitely broke. When they made that hilarious line. They said, "Elliot, how has being gay and Chinese prevented you from being happy?" And that got a really hard laugh from me. And you saw Punky break just in the bottom of the frame. You could see her forehead and just the top of her eyes, and it was clear that got a hard laugh out of her. So I did think this one had its moments, but. It wasn't the best sketch of the night, and it's not the best sketch I've ever seen, but it had a couple of moments, and the Sudi G reference was fun.
Yeah, people in the chat are asking if Sudi was the writer on the sketch, and she wasn't. It was Celeste Yim and Anna Dresden on this one. So
they're just giving props. Props.
Yeah, just helping a friend out. Andy, what'd you think of this one?
I love this one. I thought that was a very funny take on subconscious biases that interviewers have, and the voices of or the boxes we put specific groups of people or celebrities or comedians in. I thought that it was well observed. Like John, you said it had escalation, which I'm totally with you. I'm always a big fan of. But then also, I think you also said this, John. There was that kind of like edge where you could tell that they were speaking from experience a little bit. It wasn't just a general observation, but there was something very lived in and almost bitter by having these specific cast members play the roles that they did. So this was one of my favorites of the night, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. That's really great. And I like that we have different opinions on it. So I want to explore that sketch a little bit more in a couple days' time. And then we do this AMC Theaters commercial. And so everybody in the chat knows the show was running a little bit late. So there was a couple things that were cut during the show. And I guess they decided to go with AMC Theaters over a pre-tape and another sketch that they had. And this didn't really do it for me. When we talk about season finales, oftentimes, even if somebody isn't leaving, we talk about, these big grand moments to end the season. And I know that we had a lot of that, especially in the cold open in the last, couple episodes, but I was expecting something a little bit bigger for our last sketch of the season. Andy Hoglund, let me go back to you. Were you disappointed not to see something a little bit bigger for this last sketch?
That is a good point. I certainly understand that. I liked it. I thought that it was really funny. And I thought that they had a lot of specific details about the movie going experience. So, as someone who really loves and misses going to the movies, I thought that they nailed that aspect of it. But as you say, they started the show on such a great note for season finale. It would have been nice to maybe go out on a similar, not meta moment, but an equally poignant moment or something like that. But again, that could have been an opportunity if someone is definitively leaving. that space could have been held for them, but I guess we just don't know either way. So I'm rambling a little bit, but generally this was one of my more enjoyable sketches of the night. I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. Like Bill, nobody's expecting that Beck's leaving on a Vin Diesel sketch.
No. But wouldn't that be great? That would actually
that would be epic. Yeah.
Vin Diesel was good, by the way. I thought that it was
He really was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, there were elements that were good here. It's just that, I like to look at the bigger stuff, and I was hoping for a little bit more. Bill, let me go to you. What'd you think of this?
As you said, I wouldn't have ended on this. It would have been nice to see more of the cast. More of the people involved. At least we got one more Keenan eye stare before the season ended. But Beck kind of killed it with Vin Diesel, and like I said with the Bowen piece earlier, it was. I miss going to the movies as well. That's one of my favorite things to do. But then you forget about all those things like the second concession stand that's never opened and the sticky floors and it kind of seeps back into your brain. And we've been going back to baseball games and it's like, oh, we missed it so much. But then there's the drunk asshole behind you. And it's like, oh, okay. How much did I miss it? I can watch it on my big screen TV. But yeah, I mean, I think the slice of life that it really kind of played into that, but I wouldn't have ended. It kind of ended on a sour note for me.
Okay. Haynes, thoughts on last sketch of the night?
I just thought it ran a little bit too long. I mean, his Vin Diesel was not bad. And I really do think, Beck has really, evolved as someone who can do a lot of really kind of pretty solid impressions, kind of in the Taron Killam vein. And so I'm always willing to take that ride with him. But this sketch went on a little bit long for me. Unlike you, Bill, I do not think of. I did not forget about all the horrible things about the movie theater. I spent one summer working at a movie theater after high school, and I still can't eat popcorn because of it. I still hate popcorn. So I think we've touched on bitterness a little bit tonight. There was a lot of bitterness in truth that came through in this for me. But listen, it went on a little bit too long, so we lost a little bit of momentum for the end of the show. That's the thing that kind of disappointed me. But overall, it was still a really good episode, and it was a great season, and it was very unique, and it was a thing that we went through together. And I it's hard to complain about a lot about this episode.
Yeah, Haynes, did you meet your Celtic dancing girlfriend when you worked at the movie theater?
No, I did not. You're not going to lure me into telling that story, though. You're that close. I almost fell for it.
Okay. Okay, guys. So this is what we're going to do. It's about 10 past 2, so we've been going for an hour. We're going to wrap things up in a few minutes, but this is what I like to do. I'm going to ask the panel their overall thoughts. Give me a letter grade, I guess, or a number grade, however you want to do this, for your thoughts on the episode tonight, and then thoughts on the season overall. We'll go one by one around the panel. And while I'm doing that, chat, if you guys have any questions for us, we'll pick out a couple questions that we'll answer in the chat, and then anything else I'll pull for our roundtable in a couple days. So Andy Hoglund, let me start with you. Give me a grade for our episode and our season as a whole.
I think both cases B. This was a very enjoyable episode. Wasn't the most hilarious or classic or iconic, though I do think some of the moments we've talked about rise to that level. Anya, she was in the show more than I thought she was going to be, actually. The back-to-back pairings with 80 really surprised me. She wasn't hilarious, but I thought that she did a lot of commendable work, and it was a good way to go out on the season. And the season overall, again, John, I think you've said it a couple times, it's almost like there was 2 or 3 different seasons kind of baked in here, So there was definitely a couple high highs, a couple peaks and valleys. I'd probably give a couple of the stretches high marks. But then there was a few periods where I was just really sort of tearing my hair out a little bit. So by and large, all things considered equal between, the large cast and people doing their Apple show here or XYZ over there, with COVID and with Trump and with everything, all things considered, let's just give it a B.
Okay, so you said B for the episode and B for the season. Did I get that right?
Double B.
Okay, double B's. Bill, letter grade for the episode and letter grade for the season.
I'd give the episode a B+. I think even though it didn't end as greatly as we would have hoped, I think the high of the finale and the unknowingness of whether or not we're going to get how many of these people we're going to have back. So kind of enjoying the fact that they're in a sketch maybe for the last time as a cast member. Kind of curves it up a little bit. So I'll give it a B+. Overall with the season, I'd go a little higher. I'm going to say A-. I think even with all the controversy of the fall, it was kind of a salve after a long week of nonstop terrible news and just a lot of discord. And then to come into January and be able to enjoy SNL as we remembered SNL. And let's not bury the lead. They did an entire season, didn't miss one episode because of COVID. Somehow they got through it all, and that's just amazing to me. I mean, it's to equate it to sports again. You know, they get through these seasons, and you just kind of shake your head like that. How did they do it? So, yeah, A- for the season.
Okay, Haynes, what about you?
I'm completely in line for this episode. I think it was exactly a B. That's kind of the way it felt to me. I see a lot of people in our chat, kind of shooting in the C range for the season. I personally disagree. I think it was an A- type of season, and I think that because there's nothing wrong with it, but they, like you said, we can't bury the lead here. They did a whole season, through this pandemic. It has been an incredible time, an incredible experience. And the fact is, jokes hit harder at different times in your life. If you can make a joke on a normal day at the office and it gets a little bit of a laugh, but you make that same joke after we all make it out of some sort of traumatic, experience, and that joke is worth a lot more. It is. It just is. And that's what this season was. It was worth more. And so I give the season an A.
Yeah, this really was a season that you could write like a book about, I think. Like how did SNL cope facing one of the most important elections, in modern history and during a literal public health crisis? I mean, you can't write this stuff.
Yeah. I'm just seeing all the people react to Haynes in the chat. I think you're blowing people's minds. But that was an interesting take. For me, I still have to think about my letter grade for the season. I still have more episodes to do to cover it and talk to different panelists. So I will give mine out during our upcoming shows. But I will say for the episode, to me, this was an A episode, especially given, I know that the full audience was there in the COVID restrictions, but given that this was the COVID season, I was just so thrilled to see this finale. This was an A finale. I'm so happy that we're able to cover it together. Let's do a couple questions from the chat and then we'll head out for the evening. There was a question earlier from Dan. He wanted to get some of your thoughts on Melissa's Instagram story from earlier in the week. So I know we cover things that are on the show. We're not necessarily talking about, what people put on social media. Does anyone want to say anything about cast members in terms of them, putting something out there like that? We could talk in generalities if you guys want, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, let me just say one thing about this Melissa business. If you think about and feel free, guys, on the roundtable or in the chat, feel free to critique me. But I was thinking after I saw Melissa's post about the history of female cast members who come from a stand-up background. There's not a lot. It's kind of a upward haul a little bit, like Leslie Jones did 5 seasons, right? I think this is Melissa's 5th season as well too, right?
Yep.
Unless I'm missing someone, that's as far as we go in terms of female stand-ups being cast members on SNL. I don't think anyone's gone beyond that mark. So I think there's been a challenge there. I mean, Janine Garofalo is an obvious, notorious example. Sarah Silverman, like Laura Keitlinger. Like, I think, as much as the show historically had an issue with female cast members, I think there's also something specific about being a stand-up on the show, especially now, let alone being a female stand-up. So whether or not Melissa comes back or not, I totally understand where her frustrations are. I mean, we've seen how little they utilized her in general, let alone this season. I was saying in one of the Facebook groups, I think, that it's, she would get on Update, and I think with like the Dolly Parton, and you're like, okay, like she's finally got some momentum, and then she would disappear for like the next 2 or 3 shows, or we need Mike Murray to flesh out the stats a little bit. But it's almost like if I'm her, or if I'm her manager, her booker, I'd be like looking around like, what the heck's going on? So there's some sort of disconnect there. I don't know if it's interpersonal, or if it's writing, or if it's just how competitive the show is. But if I were her, I would definitely be like, yeah, why the heck am I here? So that's my general take.
Yeah, for sure. You got the Garofaholics ears ringing with that one. Yeah.
He heard his name and he like woke up from a trance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like the Undertaker gif. Okay. Bill Haynes, do you guys want to say anything about that?
Somewhere Jay Moore is happy that social media didn't exist in 1993. So, I'm sorry. What she said wasn't so outrageous. She didn't trash the show. She didn't bring anybody down. She didn't name names. I have no problem with this, especially when you go back and watch her first season on the show when, she was in sketches and she's in a lot of sketches. And what changed in that time? And there could be behind the scenes stuff we don't understand or know. That's fine. But something happened in the last season and a half to 2 seasons where she's not in enough things. And if that's because she's not writing her stuff, or if she pissed somebody off, she still has the right to go. Maybe she shouldn't have put out what she did, but I don't think that's that egregious.
Okay, Haynes, what about you?
I mean, as far as egregious, I mean, I don't think she should be punished for, expressing her opinion that, that she would like to be on the show more. Yeah. But, listen, folks have always had opinions. I don't think that the advent of social media is something that we need to, blame. I mean, I don't think we need to blame cast members for sharing their thoughts. If the public can't handle it, then that's a thing that that's a problem that they can work through on their own. Now my own personal style is, I prefer not to totally always be complaining and airing my dirty laundry when if I'm not completely satisfied with the situation. But if she wants to talk about it, that's fine. She has every right to. I certainly don't hold it against her. And so it is what it is. She's in the position that she's in, and it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to explore that a little bit more on the roundtable with the people who are on there in a couple of days. Let me just do rapid fire a couple more of these questions. Bill, I'll come to you. If only one first-time host this season could be a 5-timer, who would it be that's from College Movie Geek?
Ooh, John Krasinski.
Okay.
I think he did a great job.
Awesome. Andy, if from Ken George Jones, if people leave, would you add any new cast members? I would add 1 or 2 to help with cast diversity. Otherwise, no. What are your thoughts?
Hold on. I missed that question. What is the question? If
people leave, would you add any new cast members? I would add 1 or 2 to help with cast diversity. Otherwise, no. That's from Ken.
No. I would not add any new cast members. I don't know if that's possible. They always seem to like to 1 in, 1 out type of thing. But I would love it if we got back to a healthy 14 or 15 cast members and just hold. That's my personal take. I doubt they'll take my advice. Who cares what I have to say? But I would say, let's wait a season.
Okay, Haynes, I saw somebody in the chat said, who was the best female host of the season and the best male host of the season? Do you have any picks off the top of your head that you can think of?
Yeah, the best male host of the season might have been the best host of the season, and that might be Daniel Kaluuya. He was fantastic, I thought. Yeah. He was just so natural in his monologue and so natural in every sketch. I just thought he was I just feel like that guy is the most he was just born to be a performer. He is so great. I actually thought Adele was really good as a host. I did not, know that she would work out as well as she did, but she did. We also had Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, so those are people who really know what they're doing. So it's hard to make a choice between if I really had to pick Kristen Wiig or Maya Rudolph. I'm not sure who I could go with, but in the male category, Daniel Kaluuya I felt like stood on his own.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Casey was asking for upcoming SNL Stats coverage, so I think this is a good time to just tell you guys what's coming up on SNL Stats. So we have our roundtable coming up on, you guys will hear that on Tuesday. We have some great panelists joining us for that show. Next week, we'll be back for another show to recap the entire season. We'll discuss questions exactly just like this, who your favorite hosts were from the season, favorite sketches, favorite pre-tapes. We'll go through all that stuff. And then in the following week after that, we'll do our By the Numbers show. We'll go through all the stats and analytics with Mike Murray and our panel. So if you guys really like the numbers and want to break down why people are doing really well on the show, we're going to have that coming up as well. So I just want to thank everybody, Andy Hoglund, Bill Kenney, Andrew Haynes. You guys have been with us all since the start of the season. I really appreciate having your coverage on with us. It's been so cool to get to talk to you guys about the show, and really made my experience more fun to just talk about the show. I love doing this with you guys. So Andy Hoglund, where can people hear from you?
People can check out my thoughts and ramblings and I see Jillian in the chat here. So hello, and thank you very much. She's the wonderful digital editor over at EW.com. Folks can check out my recaps there in real time, which I think people know I try to include polls at the end. So if you want to weigh in on Twitter, SNLInReview, let me know what you think about the episodes, vote in the poll. Also, this is also a place to catch all the different former cast member thoughts. I try to contribute their feedback and commentary as much as possible, including today's season finale featured a few quotes from Jim Belushi. So take a look at that. Let me know what you think.
That's awesome. And also, Andy, you did a really fun show on the 2021 MTV Movie and TV Awards recently. So if you guys are looking for any bonus,
do that. Yeah, guys, please check that out. That was a really fun one to do. Really kind of got my nerd rocks off on that one. So take a look at that conversation. That's been a labor of love since I was in high school. So John, I just want to thank you for letting me do that, and thank you once again for this platform. The past 9 or 10 months. I think you have a not to kiss ass, but I think you have a great thing that you've got going on here.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been really fun getting to do this with all of you and really everybody in the chat as well. Bill, where can people hear from you?
You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at BKLove73. And again, I'll echo what Andy's saying. Thanks, John. This has been a blast this season, and looking forward to off-season talk as well.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun things planned for the summer as well. So we'll get into all that stuff coming up in a few weeks. Andrew Haynes, one of our excellent Andrews who joins us. So it was so great to hear from you. I'm gonna get that girlfriend story from you one day. So, but just for now, where can people reach out to you?
You can always find me on Twitter at SNL Has a Cast. And again, just to echo everyone's sentiments, this has just been a wild ride this whole season, and it's just been such an honor to talk with all of the great folks here on SNL Stats. It really is a great thing we've been building, and I'm so excited at all the people who are starting to follow us and be a part of this community. And it's just been an absolutely wild ride.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say, I know I thank the panelists and really everybody, but while I have this opportunity, it's 2:26 a.m. in the morning. I know it might come out a little bit delirious, but I just want to say to all the people listening, whether it's right now live or tomorrow or during the week, thank you so much for checking out our coverage of SNL Stats. It is really so great to get to speak to you guys. I know that I get some comments in Instagram DMs or Twitter DMs if you follow us, and I get to talk to you guys on a weekly basis to hear your thoughts and comments. Thank you. It's so wonderful to do that. And don't be shy. Please reach out, because we're going to be doing lots of really fun things moving into season 47. I can't wait to tell you all about them. And really, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to have more fans on the shows. So really reach out to us. Let us know why you love the show and why you want to participate in everything we got going on here. So for everyone at SNL Stats, for Andy Hoglund, Bill Kenney, Andrew Haynes, my name is John Schneider. Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed the season finale of season 46. Have a great night, and we will see you soon, guys. Have a good one.